we are going to power rank the contenders in a post-free agency world. I am joined by Meghan Hall of USA Today. Meghan Hall, who is now a senior women's basketball writer at USA Today. Congratulations on the promotion. Extremely, extremely well-deserved. How's it going?
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's going well. I don't think I've slowed down at any point over the last several weeks, and definitely not after I got that promotion. So ball is life right now.
No, for real. I was going to ask you how you celebrated, and it's like there's no point. There's no point in asking that question. You went to Atlanta Dream Training Camp.
I bought myself a T-shirt and I bought myself a Funko. So
wait, what's a Funko?
So I don't know if you've ever seen like the really small figurines with like the really big heads. So they have big heads and like small, almost like a bobblehead, but they're like a little like figurine they have oversized heads and like tiny bodies. But I bought a Caitlin Clark one last year and I really liked it. And so I bought one this year. It's an Asia Wilson like Funko, and it's cool because it's got her like little nose rings and it has all these little like details that like, that are just really cool. I mean, it was like a $15 buy, so it wasn't anything like huge, but it was just, I was like, oh, I like that. I was like, I'm going to put that in my office. So I probably am going to have some sort of massive Funko collection at some point, but at $15 a pop, I'm sure my husband's like, why are you spending $15 on figurines? So I'm like, I have to, kind of just buy them sparingly. So
he should be happy you're only spending $15. Like,
I mean, it's
a
better.
W.
It's better than like the $50, $60 shirts I've been buying, because shout out to Play Society, I probably have way too many shirts from Play Society.
That place eats up my bank account for sure. Shout out to them. That's awesome. You were collecting the WNBA Avengers. And amazing segue here. We're going to be talking about the WNBA Avengers here, starting with your latest Funko on it with Asia Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces. They are number one on my power rankings. Fun surprise for me is that I don't know what your rankings are, so I'm looking forward to seeing where we agree and where we disagree. But it just felt natural to start with the Aces. Won 3 of the last 4 titles, went back-to-back in 22 and 23. They have Asia Wilson, perhaps the greatest player of all time, perhaps the greatest Funko of all time. Who's to say? You can be the judge of that. Won 3 of the last 4 MVPs, has had 3 of the best 5 PER seasons of all time. I could list off Asia Wilson's accomplishments for an entire podcast, but that doesn't really feel like the point here. They also retained just about everybody to be able to keep Dana Evans, although unfortunately she is going to be out while she recovers from a lower leg injury. Retaining Alyssa Smith, retaining Jewel Lloyd, KB, Cheyenne Parker Tyus is going to be back. They got Steph Talbot, and they got a really fun X Factor edition in Kennedy Carter. So it's interesting. I think this team has more X factors than you would expect from a team that just came off the title, but because of the sort of way that their season went last year, was 500, and then they just have a perfect streak basically after that. I don't exactly know how to talk about them as the number 1 team in the league. Have you figured this out, Meghan?
I mean, I also had them as the number 1 team in the league. Like they are the team to beat. Like honestly, I think we're not talking about enough this insane run that the Aces went on. Like, I know we all watched it last season, but it was really, truly remarkable that they were sitting at below 500 at the beginning of August, and then they rattled off 17 straight games to get to the playoffs. I think they dropped, 1 or 2 games en route to a championship? Like, what do you mean that they won a whole championship after that? And not only did they win a championship, Asia Wilson wins DPOY, she wins MVP, she wins finals MVP, like all the things. And I think for the Aces, like, it is them and everybody else. And I think that like you probably saw that in free agency. It's like, hey, if you're able to keep your core like the Aces did, yeah, you probably are at the top end of probably a lot of people's free power rankings. However, there are a lot of teams that also like didn't keep their core. So obviously we'll get into that. But I think that like the Aces kind of set the mark. They're like, yeah, we did it with our core and we're probably going to run it back. And that's, that's the goal. So yeah, I keep them at the top. Also, they have Asia Wilson and everybody else does not. So
no, so true. So true. They have a really good big 3. Like they managed to keep Jackie Young, who is kind of on this streak of getting better every year. Chelsea Gray is, I think on a day-to-day level, she's not as consistent anymore, but when she's on, she's a top 15 player in the WNBA. And Jewel Lloyd is somebody who I think could have a really interesting year. She's always been, she's a very dynamic spacer, and that's sort of the role that she played for them last year. But we know that she's capable of more scoring. And I'm curious if now they have the continuity to work in some of the more jewel coded actions, like just having her run off screens, forcing defenses to kind of have to pay attention to her even more than they did last year. I think she got 2 game winners off of Asia Wilson finding her in the corner. That's the other thing. Asia Wilson comes back better every year as well. She adds a playmaking. She was a 40% 3-point shooter. I'm looking forward to seeing what's in the bag this year. I imagine we'll probably see her even more on the ball, with the floor spread. Parker Tyus was an all-star 2 years ago and was recovering from pregnancy this year. And then you've got the most interesting player, someone who has become increasingly more important too because Dana Evans is out. Kennedy Carter has gone from dropping 50 bombs in China, winning sportsmanship awards as well, which feels notable. Somebody who was, I don't want to say she was blackballed out of the league, but certainly somebody who couldn't find a home after having what was a pretty successful on-court season for Chicago, was part of their best lineups before everything fell apart and Teaspoon got fired. Seemed like she had found a home too, so a place that she was nurturing to her as a locker room, and also just kind of let her cook. And then she just wasn't in the league the year after. To me, for a team that won a title, this is a high variance choice, but it's also somebody who could be potentially a huge get as well.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I mean, I think Becky Hammon was talking about, just a couple days ago how Spoon had a really big hand in kind of talking to Becky about potentially adding Kennedy.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, like Kennedy is always been a dynamic talent. I don't think the talent's ever been the, quote unquote, the issue. The issue has been the off the court stuff. And I think that was a large reason why she wasn't in the league in 25 is because, hey, there was off the court concerns. However, that said, I think if you're going to a place like Las Vegas, one of the things Becky Hammon has talked about ad nauseum has been high character, high quality people. That's what she wants in her locker room. And so I think at this point in Kennedy's career, it has to be that she has, essentially gotten to that point where she realizes, hey, I've got to get myself together. I've got to, maintain my professionalism on and off the court and carry on. Right. And I think for the Aces, this is a massive X factor. I wrote about how it could be the steal of free agency if this all works out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kennedy is essentially a starting caliber player, and you're going to have her come off the bench, which almost feels like just unfair to everyone else having to play the Aces. So I look forward to seeing what she will do. Like, will she be this year's sort of Jewel Lloyd or Dana Evans? Like they were the X factors for Vegas down the stretch of the season and even in the playoffs and into the finals.
Well, it's interesting that you bring them up because last year I felt like Becky bet on Aces culture and her ability to integrate them into a locker room. I think she's one of the coaches that knows how to touch the emotional notes and figure out what players are going through internally. It's something that she actually talked about in an interview with Renee Montgomery that was really good. And she mentioned that the Aces, they were kind of internally wounded last year, and they had to heal some of those wounds internally before they could really rip off the run that they did. And that was sort of what they ended up doing, right? And now they're kind of making that bet again. And with Kennedy, it's like, man, she's not even like a starting level player. If she's actually fully like Kennedy Carter unplugged, this is an all-star caliber player, Like I'm curious what you think, but I was thinking about this before the pod. Like how many guards are really better than her in isolation, especially as far as north-south goes? Like there's Kelsey Mitchell, Arike when she's on, Kalia Copper.
I was about to say it's not very many. It's a short, very, very short list. Kennedy, Arike, Kelsey Mitchell have some of the fastest first steps in the entire league. Like if you don't catch them in their first step, good luck because they're gone. And so, yeah, I think it's really, really tough to like defend her. And I'm like, again, I'm just so, I'm so intrigued by this addition to the Aces because I'm like, what do you mean we're going to see all this greatness come off the bench? Like, what? Aces, like, this is definitely the type of stuff that they do every offseason. They go and add these pieces that like, it feels like no one else is, thinking about it. And maybe that's not the case. Obviously, I'm not behind the scenes in some of these deals, but it feels like the Aces just get away with these sorts of like, crazy sort of, I would say like high reward deals, right? And this feels like it could be another one. And if it is, like, we're gonna talk about how the Aces added Kennedy Carter en route to another championship.
Yeah.
Like, it's just what?
And I mean, they retained KB, which means like potentially they could bring back the same starting lineup as last year, which means you could bring Jewel Lloyd and Kennedy Carter off the bench. Now I don't know, maybe they'll switch things around, but like it just speaks to the amount of star power that this team has. It's pretty incredible. Who's your number 2?
Yeah, so my number 2 is New York Liberty.
Okay,
I
same.
think that with the addition of Satu Sabali, they also another team that retained their core. You bring back Saab, you bring back Stewie, JJ, and then you add in Satu. That's a really, really, really good solid core. Also, I would say this: Fibic is of course going to be in the lineup. Also, they re-signed Nigel Laney Hamilton, which was a glue player for them when she was healthy. I really, really like that sort of that lineup and that depth for them. I'm very curious to see how Satu plays with New York, and if she'll fit in that sort of system, especially with the new head coach and Chris DeMarco. So yeah, I've got them there though. I mean, it's hard for me to put any team with Stewie or Saab or even JJ like below 5. I'm like, the sky would have to be falling there for me to say like, hey, they're not in my top 5.
Oh, the sky is falling, but that's a topic for a different episode.
Oh no. Oh no. I'm so sorry, Chicago Sky. It's a lot going on.
Well, yeah, this subject has a lot going on right now. Well, I'm curious, what is your sort of like why like give me your sort of why it would work with Satu and why it might not? Like what's your internal monologue there?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for the New York Liberty is they've talked about their offense was a big issue last season. At times it would disappear in games and you weren't exactly getting the production that you needed. Now, injuries did play a part in that, so take that with a grain of salt. But I think when you have a healthy New York Liberty team, they are one of the top upper echelon elite offenses in the league. And not only are they there offensively, but they're also a high quality defensive team. And I would say this, if you saw how Satu elevated the profile of the Phoenix Mercury when she was on and off the court. That's kind of what I would like to see what happens with Satu on and off the court in New York. I do think that they have not had that extra piece for them. This is no slight to Leonie Fibic or Nigel Laney Hamilton or anything else like that. But I do think in the last season, they needed an additional scorer, someone else who could space the floor, someone else who could drain threes, someone else who could draw defenders. And I think Satu does that for them. And so I'm very curious to see how Satu and Saab work in tandem. Obviously, they had that connection going on at Oregon. Can they recreate that at the WNBA level? So for me, maybe it's more of an intrigue, but like New York is such a well-run team and a well-run franchise that I think every move that they make is intentional. And so I think that was all about Chris DeMarco talked about it today as well. His offense is simple, and he wanted it to be simple so that his players could catch on easily and that they could continue moving. So I think that they're trying to also move at the speed that is going to keep them in pace and in lockstep with like a team like the Aces that they have obviously have history with and want to get a title. So.
Well, Sabrina Ionescu and Sabali, they have sort of unfinished business from that Oregon run too, because COVID ended their opportunity to actually be able to go on a March Madness run. So I think if you're a Ducks fan, it's just going to be cool to actually see those two together trying to go for a title, right? And I love that you bring up Chris DeMarco. And when I think about Satu Sabali, I wonder if were they missing Satu Sabali or were they missing the correct shot distribution and the correct offense? Because on paper, the Liberty have always been a team that should be at the top of your power rankings, right? They're perpetually stacked. They are now adding Satu Sabali to what was the best starting lineup in the WNBA in the 2024 playoffs and in the season before everybody got hurt in last season. So that's obviously incredible. But with New York, you've always had these sort of questions of, is are they maximizing their talent? I think sometimes that's why fans get frustrated with them. Like, I feel like we have this secret sort of bargain where it's like, okay, you want to construct a super team, fine, but you have to show us something fantastic on the back end of it. And I think that their offense has sort of fallen short of being that. And you start asking questions. I think the Liberty front office starts asking questions like, why is Sabrina Ionescu one of the best pure shooters from three, shooting less than 30% from three? Why is Jonquel Jones the most efficient player on the team, getting less than 10 attempts per game? You know, why is Stewie's shot diet still kind of the how it would be for a player that hasn't sort of lost her outside touch that we've seen her lose now? She's still fantastic from, you know, anywhere inside really like 12 feet. But there were sort of, I think there was a lack of superstar maximization. And I wonder if that's something that we see change under the Chris DeMarco regime as well. He was asked about Sabrina's 3-point percentage. And he basically said along the lines of, we have to get her great looks. And he talked about the difficulty of being a point guard where you're running the offense and sometimes the ball gets swung back to you late and you have to take a bad shot. And that's a tricky balance, but we also have to remember that this is a guy who cut his teeth with Steph Curry, who basically is the greatest shooter of all time. It's not necessarily like, it's like being Michael Jackson's singing coach. But he struck the balance, and like the Warriors struck this balance of, allowing him to be the conductor while also like playing him off the ball, and having him relocate, which he mentioned with Sabrina, in ways that set him up for efficient shots and also was like the engine for an amazing offense. So I wonder if we'll see that. And then the other thing he talked about is playing inside out. You want to get those threes up. But I think the other big question with the Liberty is, okay, like you guys have had all of these amazing players. Why is it that the most efficient shot in the game at the rim is something that you guys have been in the bottom three of in the last 2 years as well? So they are, to me, if they figure all those things out, this is a team that could break offensive scoring records. They could be Broadway. They could end up being one of the best starting lineups that we've ever seen. And they've retained so much depth. They have so much length. They have so much defensive versatility. They also have a floor that we've seen can be a first round out if things don't work as well. So it could kind of go either way. I am pretty optimistic though. Like I'm buying their training camp for sure. Like the things that I'm hearing out of their training, I like it. I like what I'm hearing. I like what I'm hearing from Sabrina, from Chris DeMarco, from Jonquel Jones, from Benijah Laney Hamilton, who I think this could be a huge prove it season for her too. She was retained under the reserve clause for $400K, which is what a great deal. But I think that she's the type of player who could really benefit from this new offense as well, and especially that rim pressure.
Yeah, and shout out to the Liberty's training camp. Speaking of, I don't know if you've seen the memes coming out of Liberty training camp, because all the videos from any of the media on site are all like above the court. So if you're on Twitter, and you go search like Liberty training camp, you'll see the memes coming out from the reporters, because all the videos are from like up above and they're watching training camp going on. It's the funniest
the bird's
thing.
eye view.
It's kind of, we'll look back on that, of course, throughout the season. But I like stuff like that, because personally speaking, I think the bird's eye view is really cool, because sometimes you miss stuff when you're down on floor level. And so that bird's eye view is really good, at least I think as a media person, to be able to see the various different like movements. So
it's also great for them because we can't hear what they're saying to each other as well.
Probably, yeah. And maybe that's part of it. It's like, okay, we can't hear, but we can see the movement.